Wow, that first lab went way better than I thought it would.
Yeah, hopefully our data turns out.
For sure, but man, I'm just really happy to get these goggles off.
Hang on. We're still technically working with chemicals in here. Even if it's unlikely you really don't want to risk getting any of these solvents in your eye, you should probably keep them on.
You're right, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
But man, I don't even know what to do next.
That's okay. I can show you. First thing you want to do is grab one of these glass pipettes from the yellow bin. The next thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and place that glass pipette into your vial like this and gently move it around to take up some of your sample.
What happens if it looks like I don't have enough sample, even after I've scraped the vial?
That's totally fine. To run a CNMR or an HNMR, you don't need that much sample, just a few specks. Once you have some of your sample in the tip of your pipette like this, you can go ahead and grab a clean NMR tube from the beaker that will be labeled clean NMR tubes and stick it in your NMR tube like this, and now we can dispense our solvent.
But how am I supposed to know which solvent to use?
It should tell you in the manual for the lab that you're doing. If you're ever unsure, you can always ask your professor or refer to the sheet up here on the wall of lab 203. To dispense the solvent, remove the cap from the spigot and place your pipette directly under the spout. Go ahead and pull the top of the bottle and push it down to dispense the correct amount of solvent.
How do I know if I've used enough solvent?
You should definitely check with the reference NMR tube taped up here on the wall. The level of your solvent should match up with the black line on the wall. If your level is too short, you can always add just a little bit more solvent by lifting the top of the bottle and pushing down again. If your level is too high, however, you should probably just start over with a new NMR tube. When you have your sample at the correct level, you can go ahead and reach into the beaker to grab a clean NMR cap and then go ahead and cap the tube of your sample. Just make sure to put the cap on carefully so you don't accidentally break your tube.
Should I shake it or mix it to make sure my sample dissolves?
You shouldn't need to. Besides, if you shake the tube, you could risk breaking it, which would not only make a huge mess for yourself, but it also would pose a hazard. If you do break a tube for any reason though, make sure you put it in the broken glass bin to the left of the computer. Now that we have our sample mixed with our solvent and we know the solvent level is at the correct level, we can go ahead and put our sample in the NMR rack and put all of the information we need into the computer. If you want to hop on the computer, I can tell you what to do.
Sure,
Wait, make sure you take your gloves off before you work on the computer.
but I thought we had to keep all of our PPE on when we work in the lab.
That's true. But since we're not actively working with chemicals because our sample is already on the rack, you can go ahead and take your gloves off. Especially because if somebody else comes and types on the computer without their gloves on, you risk exposing them to harmful chemicals that were on your gloves in the first place.
Okay, I got it now.
Now that you have this page up on the computer, you can go ahead and start filling out the information for your sample so the data can be sent back to you once your data has been run. You should label your sample in the file name section using your initials, the number of your lab section, the date and time your lab is, and an abbreviation for what lab project this sample is for. After you've labeled your sample in the file name area, you should go to the slot area and make sure you put the correct number slot your sample is in on the rack. You should also double check the solvent area on the page. Make sure that you have the correct solvent selected for your lab project. The last thing you should do before submitting what tests you want is fill in your school email so you can have the tests exported to you when you're ready. Now, you want to go ahead and select whatever tests you want to run for this sample. Proton and carbon will be the main ones you use in 201, and they are the first options on the page. If you're ever unsure what projects you want to do, go ahead and refer to the sheet on the wall of 203.
What do I do if my data doesn't come through right away?
Your lab results may take a day or two to come through. Because we actually have to run the samples through the NMR instrument, it can take some time before they're available for you. If more than a few days go by and you still have not received your samples, you definitely should reach out to your professor ASAP so they can help you find your data for your lab report. In the worst case scenario, if somebody lost your sample or if your results didn't come through properly, it's important to make sure you keep your vials for every lab project you do, so if you need to run a new HNMR or CNMR, you have the ability to do so.
Okay, I'll remember that for next time. Thanks for all your help. I think I'm ready to try this on my own now.